First to coverage of the trial that dominated not just America, but the rest of the world.
10 minutes past 4, Minneapolis time, found guilty on all 3 counts. Let's go to that reaction now. Alison Petrowski is outside that court. Ali, talk to me.
I'm a bit emotional, Carl. It's been a pretty incredible couple of minutes. Cell phones have been jammed, so it actually took a couple of minutes for the news to filter through that all 3 counts.
Well, less of the feels would be a good thing and more of the facts. But that wasn't as bad as an ABC journalist marching with the activists, preaching their message.
Chauvin thrust this city into 11 months of grief and wrenching trauma. His name will barely be uttered once his jail sentence is handed down. Yet in George Floyd's death on a Minneapolis street pavement, his will live on as the inspiration for America's unfinished work on race and inequality.
That sermon was brought to you by the ABC at your expense. A few commentators contrasted this case with that of convicted criminal and drunk driver Rodney King, who was beaten back in 1991.
People will remember Rodney King, who was violently attacked by police officers, and they were acquitted.
With the history of court cases, obviously the Rodney King one stands out, where those 4 police officers were acquitted for the beating of Rodney King.
But the King matter didn't end with their initial acquittals. 4 officers later faced federal charges and 2 were jailed. But there was an even bigger Rodney King howler.
But, you know, if you go back a generation to the Rodney King trial and the police killing of Rodney King in Los Angeles, beaten to death on video camera by police with their batons.
Beaten to death? King actually won nearly $4 million in compensation, had more children, married and divorced a couple of times, battled addiction and lived another 20 years. But on the ABC, that crazy falsehood was not challenged, nor was this outrageous slur.
If you look at the situation as it stands, I mean, the police have a licence to kill, both in Australia and in the United States.
And this from Nine's Layla McKinnon was kind of typical.
And I'd imagine that a lot of that relief today is because George Floyd was put on trial in that courtroom in the last few weeks, but the right verdict has come, and we can only imagine how America would have lit up had the verdict been any different.
George Floyd was on trial? A journalist proclaiming the right verdict? Inferring it's not the burden of proof, but the reaction of the mob that matters. In the US, commentator Candace Owens called out the worrying political mob and media intimidation of the justice system.
If we don't get what we want, we will riot, we will loot, we will send these people out like soldiers to destroy your neighborhoods. And that is exactly what has happened. That has been the determination of this trial. The media and the Democrats now have enough power to bully and to lie to and to create propaganda and to successfully win. And that is what happened. And they are celebrating that win today. This was not a fair trial.
Only one side.
No person can say this was a fair trial.
You see, though, you don't have to disagree with the verdict to be worried about how this was handled and reported and how it might play out next time.